when you eat might be more important than even what you're eating.
Wow.
Obviously, that don't mean going wild for processed foods and junk food and whatever. My advice would be to do things in much smaller increments.
Tom Broadwell has been in the health and fitness industry for more than 2 decades, working closely with hundreds of clients one-on-one as a personal trainer and teaching thousands of people in health seminars all around the world. Having read hundreds of books on improving health and developing a positive mental attitude, and thousands of medical and research papers on the subjects of natural healing, nutrition, supplementation, detoxification, sleep, stress, and alternative healing, Tom has helped people improve their health and lose weight all around the world. This is Tom's book, Lazy Fucks Don't Live to 100. And man, is that true. We had Tom on the show. I think it was last year we had Tom on the show. I think it was like almost exactly a year ago. And we talked about a lot of the things in this book, but we didn't even scrape the surface realistically. We talked about natural healing. We talked about intermittent fasting. We talked about fasting in general and how it's helped Tom to heal from different ailments throughout his life, especially one giant ailment that he experienced when he moved to the Philippines on the beach that he now lives on, that we're going to talk about. So we're going to dive more into those topics, as well as some functional and practical ways for you to live a fit and a healthy life so that you can live to 100, and not just live to be 100 and get old, but live to be 100 full of vitality, feeling really, really great in your old age and in your young age. So when you take away anything from this conversation with Tom, all that we ask is you share this show with just one other person who could use it as well. We're not going to show you an ad. We're not going to show you sponsors. That's because you are the best part of the Be Better team, and we've grown over the past 2 years because of you. So thank you so much. Tom, welcome back to the show, brother. It's good to see you. You're looking great. You're in your new home. It's good to have you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, brother. So you tell me, man, what's new and exciting in Tom's life over the last year since I've seen you?
Well, last time my land, let's say, was a working project. So I was living in a very temporary bamboo shack with holes in the roof, and when it rained, it leaked and things like that. And now I've managed to build my very own all-natural wooden dome home, which I'm very proud of. It took a while, but we eventually got there, and there you go. So here in the
For those
Philippines,
watching, you'll see it on the screen if you're watching it here, guys. But if you're listening, then Tom, maybe you can. For those listening who can't see it, maybe you can give a description, probably much better than I can. But it looks beautiful, man.
Thank you so much. Yeah, they call that a kubo kubo here in the Philippines. Probably not pronouncing that right, but basically a bit of a beach house. And I wanted to build it out of all natural materials, or as close as I could physically get. And then also take into account sacred geometry. So it's basically an octagon with a dome roof. So I live in a place called the 100 Islands. And if you look at nature, it always flows. So each island is sort of rounded. We don't see rectangles so much in nature. So I wanted to blend in. And actually, when we go out fishing and you go in along the coastline, you can see a lot of the big, white houses and whatever's popular now. And then you can barely see ours. So it's beautiful. It blends in nicely. I wanted to do natural materials just from an energetic point of view. I'm big into earthing. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but taking your shoes and socks off and putting your feet in the grass or the earth or the sand. I say in my book, like, you don't need to be a scientist. Like, that just feels amazing, right? When you walk with the bare feet in between your toes or the grass. And that's called the Earth's resonance, or the Earth's heartbeat. So Schumann's resonance, basically science way back in the 1950s proved that the Earth gives off a certain energy, and to us in our body, it has antioxidant effects. What do? We wear rubber-soled shoes. We cycle on rubber-tired bikes and drive in rubber cars. Our beds are often made of man-made materials, our mattresses. We have concrete houses, and we're as far removed from Earth, its resonance and nature as possible. So I wanted to do something natural And I don't know if you saw, but I've got a glass pyramid right in the center of the house. So, in yoga, in meditation, we use mandalas, which is like geometric circles, which center the mind. So I wanted to do something similar, and then align with my circadian rhythm. So there's no choice but to wake up with the sunrise. So get to bed early. And then you get into that natural circadian rhythm. And also you can lay in bed and look at the stars and the moon.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, having spent 5 years on cruise ships in cabins with no windows, you really appreciate like the night sky, right? So, and then I figured out we always block it with concrete ceilings. So why not put a glass roof on the house? So that's where that came from.
I love that, man. Congrats on that, on building that. It sounds like you had a vision and you put that vision to work. You created exactly what you wanted. And now you're quite literally living inside of that vision. So I applaud you for that, man. Congratulations. It's super exciting.
Thank you very much.
So let me ask you this. So all of that sounds awesome, right? Like you know, your circadian rhythm and earthing and really just aligning yourself with nature in this way that a lot of people have never experienced. Like a lot of the things that you've mentioned, like I've had a taste of, but I'm not out there wearing no shoes, no socks, just walking barefoot on the ground very often. A couple summers ago, my buddy and I used to go on a hike at least a couple times a week. And I live up in the Adirondacks in upstate New York. So we've got the big, beautiful mountains here. And it does feel really great, right? It was kind of tough at times, you know, walking on the rocks and stuff, but your feet do become tougher very quickly, like they were really meant to be. But I guess my question is like, before you started putting these practices into action, how would you describe how you felt before you were putting these things into action versus how you feel now that you are so much more aligned with your own health and more conscious of how you feel?
Yeah, I mean, before, I was teaching 100 personal training sessions per week, living in Sydney, Australia. So big city life. I did love Sydney because like there's a lot of nice beaches, so you can get off to the beach. But, I always try to move closer to the beach. I don't know if you know the housing prices in Sydney, but it's one of the most expensive cities in the world, much like New York. And the closer I got to the beach, the more expensive life became, the harder I had to work. And I soon realized, even though I lived 5 minutes from the beach, I couldn't see the beach from my apartment because I was on the bottom floor. That's all I could afford. And I realized I'm in the rat race. Like, I could physically make time to get to the beach once per week on a Sunday. But then if friends or whoever had different plans, then I didn't even get there every week. So I was caught up in that, and that's what really made me want to eventually own my own beach and just escape the big city life. And now I'm off grid. So life is most certainly more relaxed. And, I put together an email the other day talking about, for example, my father's typical guy, worked hard all his life. I remember as a young boy, I woke up on holiday and I'd been dreaming about stacking shoes on shelves. That's a mouthful. That was my weekend job, most boring job I've ever had, right? And I was dreaming about the most boring thing, doing a shift at work on holiday. And my father said, "Oh, you don't know how to relax." He says, "When I get back to work, I can't even remember the key code to get in the building. And none of the other employees can do that." I'm like, he was basically saying I'm the best relaxer. And then more recently now, like my work is what most people do on holiday to relax. So my work is research. So I have to read books, and often I sit in a hammock to do that. So half of my day where I'm researching and reading is in a hammock, chilling out. And that's my work. And then what I truly do to relax, meditation, breath work, some restorative yoga, for example. That's what most people don't even have time for, right? They don't get into true relaxation. So although my father was better at normal people for relaxing, he didn't really know what relaxing was because, the only time he'd had time to read a book was on holiday. He didn't do any meditation or breath work and things like that. So when you completely remove yourself, not only from well, it's just big city life, right? 100 personal training sessions a week. I was leaving the house at 5 a.m., getting home at 10:30 p.m., 6 days a week, one day off. Didn't even have time to go to the beach most of the time. Like the difference is night and day. And I don't say any of this to show off, but I've sort of created the life that I really wanted back then. Through setting myself goals, knowing exactly what I wanted, and then taking the risks to go out there and create that. But yeah, I was like anybody else, like in terms of I tried to connect to nature. I'd go on walks, but barely had time. I was one of them people who thought I didn't have time to meditate. And I love the quote, you should sit for 20 minutes in meditation every day. And if you don't have time, you should sit for 1 hour. So, yeah. So now I feel completely relaxed, connected, feel day to day, everything, day to day, constantly interacting with my animals, planting food, and then doing my work on the side. And I'm in a very, very nice place, I have to say.
Yeah, that's very clear. It's very clear that you created the life that you're living. It didn't happen accidentally. It happened because you had the intention to make it happen. And you knew what you didn't want and you knew what you wanted and you created that life. And most people watching, they are working for a company. They've got a job. They've got a family. They've got a lot of different things happening in their life, a lot of different relationships they're looking to strengthen and build, and all the different activities they do and working out and everything on top of all of that. They're living busy lives. And you went to the extreme, which is absolutely amazing, because that tells me that you have a propensity for risk and going outside your comfort zone that a lot of people, including myself at this stage, do not have, right? You literally moved to a beach in the Philippines. You uprooted your life. You built your beautiful domed home. You've created a self-sustainable plot of land for you and your family. Like, absolutely amazing. But now I'm thinking of the person who isn't going to do that. And I'm thinking, if I put you in a room with the normal everyday achiever in, corporate America, let's say they're working for a big company organization, how can that person, like, is there one or two things or a piece of advice that you would give to that person that would allow them to continue living that life that they enjoy? Like, they love the growth, they love the life they're creating. What would you say to that person to help them incorporate more relaxation into their own life?
100%. I'd say, what we do with any health and fitness and most things actually is we chase one thing, or we're sold one thing, right? This diet is the thing that will help you lose weight forever. This way of exercising is going to change your body, change your physique forever. This one supplement is going to improve your health, going to heal your body. This one meditation pose is going to be, the miracle that changes your life. And we're constantly sold on these one-hit wonders, this, silver bullet or whatever you want to call it. And it doesn't work that way. And then if anything, let's say if someone wants to get into shape, but they're doing the corporate thing, they're sat at a desk all day, they're out of exercise because they're busy and they're stressed, etc., and they want to lose some weight or whatever. Well, if you go and do one form of exercise, it has to be extreme to work. Because if you don't change anything else, you don't change your stress levels, you don't change your sleeping pattern, you don't change your diet, that one way of exercising has to be extreme. So what happens is when we do anything extreme, that's a threat to your brain. So this is where in the beginning, novelty is fantastic. So you're excited and you turn up and you do it. And then soon it's a little extreme. So you start looking for excuses, or in terms of exercise, you might break physically or you might break mentally, especially if you've done nothing for 20 years. Now, in terms of diets, like if you're regularly in the standard American diet, for example, and it's 2,500 calories a day, lots of carbs, lots of meat, etc., then all of a sudden you cut down to 500 calories on this new diet. That's 1/5 of what you normally eat. That's extreme. Or, You just cut out an entire food group that you've eaten your entire life. And now you go to a restaurant with your friends after work, and now you get that awkward thing of, why are you not choosing what you normally eat? Oh, I'm on a diet, and you have to have that conversation, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's awkward. And then the next time you go, you're either too embarrassed or you give up, and then you go back to eating normally. And that's how you got out of shape in the first place. So my advice would be to do things in much smaller increments. Don't go for the 1 hour meditation that I just made a joke about. Start with 10 minutes a day. Like 10 minutes of 100% focused meditation, for example, every day is going to be far better for you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually than trying to do an hour and it's sort of half-assed. It's like you're uncomfortable, you can't sit straight, your mind's wandering. Like just start with 10 minutes. At the end of the day, you could do a 5-minute restorative yoga pose, like legs up the wall. So you lay down and put your legs straight up against the wall, get your bum as close to the wall as you can without being uncomfortable. It's supposed to relax. Close your eyes, arms out, palm face up. Focus on your breath, making your inward breath shorter than your outward breath, or your outward breath longer than your inward breath. And when you're breathing out, now you're in the parasympathetic nervous system, so you're relaxing. So that is a great way to wind down, reset the adrenals. It's a form of inversion, which gets blood flow to the brain, which is incredibly healthy. Do it for 5 minutes. In the morning, 10 minutes of meditation. And then you got 15 minutes per day that can change your life. And if people were not aware, 15 minutes is 1% of your day. So if you can commit 1% of your day to relaxation, it'd be life-changing. And then if you want to build up and do more, do a longer meditation, then do that. But do it in increments. Do 12 minutes and then 15 minutes. But you don't need to do an hour a day.
Hey, what's the value of that one specific yoga pose with your legs against the wall, your butt close to the wall as possible? Because you mentioned that last time. So the fact that you mention it again tells me that you still deem it as powerful as it was a year ago.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it might be just because it's my favorite. I might be biased, but most people sit down too much. So physically, you're gently stretching your hamstrings and your lower back. So if you've got back pain, that might just go away. Physically as well, it's a form of inversion. So actually, the best yoga pose you can do really is a headstand. But most people are unable to do that and not going to do that after a long, hard day. So this is a very safe and effective version or inversion of the headstand.
That's cool.
And then, the second best technically is the candle. But again, you got to be able to hold up your own body weight, etc. So if we're talking about someone who's not done anything for 20 years, my favorite's leg up the walls pose. And again, you can progress to them other poses, but take it one step at a time. That's the key to success, I think.
I like that. I'm going to try it. I didn't try it last time, and I think I told you I would, but I'm actually going to make it a point to try it. And if you guys listening try it, let us know in the comments what you think, how it made you feel. Do it for like a week before you let us know how it made you feel, because I'm sure it takes time for it to I mean, maybe you feel great the first time you do it.
Yeah, that's why I like it so much. I actually remember the first time I did it. I was like, wow, this is awesome. And then one of my newer clients, she started doing it, and she actually got into what I call the vortex. So she was like totally into a meditation at that minute. She was like fully submerged, and she's like, wow, this is what it's all about,
That's amazing.
So yeah, it can do some amazing things for people.
So we talked about diet a second ago, and I do want to touch on a few things there. Is there, like, can you walk us through briefly, like, what does a day of eating look like for you, especially with where you're living and how a lot of what you do is self-sustainable? So talk to me about what a day of eating looks like for you. I know it's not going to be the same for everybody, but walk me through that if you would.
Yeah. So I'm big into intermittent fasting, as we mentioned last time. And again, with that, I started getting new clients into doing just a 12-hour fasting window rather than going straight for the 16-8. That's a bit of a struggle, and then just slowly building that up. Just wanted to mention that. So the longer you fast, the better. But if it's 12 hours in the beginning, and that's totally manageable for most people, stop eating at 8 p.m., start eating at 8 a.m. I mean, that's fairly easy, right? And then you build up on that. For me, I'm more, so I'll break my fast with usually a vegetable juice. Always add a bit of lemon or lime for the taste. Usually add some beets because I just love the taste of that, and it's sweeter. I do have quite a sweet tooth. Then lunch, we eat a lot of fish, as you can guess from where we live. And then chicken is our main two proteins, and then like tons of more of the local vegetables. Although we live fairly near a mountain called Baguio, and they grow all English vegetables. So when we get a chance to go up the top of the mountain, we buy a lot of English vegetables, taking me back home, Now, I always say to people, it's actually maybe, I'm not saying 100% no here, but when you eat might be more important than even what you're eating.
Wow.
Obviously, that don't mean going wild for processed foods and junk food and whatever, but we're always so scared of like I eat beef, and I'm totally cool with that. I don't start sweating if I've had more than like 3 portions of red meat in a week. Like it's fine. We sweat over cholesterol all the time, and I've wrote a lot about that recently. That's like one of the biggest scams in history, of course. Tons of different things. So if you're eating more, or I always say as close to as nature intended, then you don't need to sweat about eating a whole egg over the egg white or some red meat or whatever. Like just chill. If it's from nature, you're fine. Now, the key here is, and the reason I started doing the 12-hour thing and then really speaking to my clients is sometimes they're like on their own accord, they think, okay, fasting longer is better. So let's say they're on the 12-hour thing and they eat at 9 one day, and then the next day they're not so hungry, so they eat at 11. And then the next day they go back to eating at 9. And then the next day they push it to 11:30. You have technically, if you think about it, got on an airplane and gone to the opposite side of the country if you eat 2 hours either side of what you normally eat.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah. So you're causing yourself jet lag, basically. So if you wake up every day feeling like lethargic, this could be the reason. So,
that's me, by the way. Like I try. So just to give you like a background of me, and I don't generally wake up feeling jet lagged though, because I'm generally up at the same time. I do have an alarm. I get up because I have things I get done. But like I read this book called oh man, what was the name of the book, man? It was by I'll figure it out. It was one of the famous health books from like the 80s, and this guy was like touring with Tony Robbins in the 80s and the 90s, and Harvey Diamond, or I'll figure it out. But I want to think of this title. But anyway, he talks about fruit until noon. So he talks about intermittent fasting, right? Before really anyone was talking about it.
Yeah.
But then he says, well, when you eat fruit, the fruit digests differently and technically doesn't break your fast. And there is a lot more that goes into it than that. But I started to do that, and this has been years now. So I will, I'll eat my last meal at 8 generally as the latest I'll eat my last meal. And then I will generally eat or wait until noon each day to eat real food. But around 10 a.m., I'll start eating some fruit, and I'll have like an orange, and I'll have a kiwi. Sometimes I'll have some berries. But sometimes I eat that fruit at 8:30. Sometimes I eat it at 11. It really just depends. So what you're saying is, and I didn't really let you finish, but what you're saying is there benefit to waiting until the same time each day to eat?
Yeah. So newer studies, let's say, than since the 80s. So even a year ago, I probably said in your fasting window you can eat or drink, black coffee, herbal tea, etc. I've now changed my stance on that, because every single organ, even every cell in your body, has its own biological clock. So If you eat at 12 every day, your body learns and it knows. So your stomach will start to produce the gastric juices around the same time every day, recognizing you're going to eat at 12. Your liver starts to produce bile, for example, to break down the fat. So everything starts to kick in maybe 11, 11:30 because it knows you're going to eat at 12. If you randomly eat at 10, then none of this processes has started. So now your body's like, whoa, and it's a bit shocked, and then it has to race to catch up. If that then is the 8 a.m. the other day, then all of these biological clocks are way out of whack. So if you're eating a meal and you have no gastric juices, no bile being produced, then you're not going to digest that food properly. That's going to end up in your intestines almost intact. So you've got rotten meat in there that's not being broken down, big clumps of pasta or bread or potatoes or whatever it is you're eating. So yeah, the key is eating at the same time every day. And also understand that even a cup of black coffee has 4 calories. So them calories will start your digestive process kicking off.
Really?
Yeah, that's why I teach my clients now to start at 12 hours, because in them 12 hours, only water with the salts that we talked about last time.
Whoa. So black coffee. So in that case, I haven't really been fasting ever because I'll wake up at 6. Really? I'll wake up at 6 and I'll immediately brew coffee. Immediately.
Yeah.
So by 6:20, I'm drinking a cup of black coffee. So technically, I'm breaking my fast at that point. And what you're saying is I'm not getting the benefits that I would get if I waited to have that cup of coffee.
Right. So yeah, technically you'd still be burning fat, let's say, but autophagy, which is your body is programming diseased cells or damaged cells to death, so then you can get rid of them before they turn cancerogenic or whatever. That process stops. So your body is either digesting food or healing. It doesn't do both at the same time. So yeah, that's where I'm just a water advocate now. Anything, even a herbal tea breaks you fast. It's crazy.
So I just wanted to share this because I talked about it. This is the book I was talking about. So it's Fit for Life by Harvey Diamond. And great book. He talks about natural hygiene. Have you read this book, by the way, or have you heard of this book?
No. I love his name, Harvey Diamond.
But him and his wife actually wrote this, him and Marilyn. I would recommend that you go through this book because I would be very fascinated to maybe even debunk some of the things in this book, because he does talk about acidity. He talks about alkaline. He talks about a lot of the things that a lot of these, health experts still talk about today. And really, a lot of it blew my mind. But he talks about, again, how fruit doesn't break your fast. But obviously it must, because you're consuming calories. So I guess my question for you as an intermittent faster, and I know a lot of people listening do the same thing, would you say, Brandon, wait to eat that fruit until noon, the same time that you would eat everything else? So you would say to wait?
No. Yeah. Yes, I know.
Okay.
Fruit does digest differently to meat and starchy carbs, etc. But it digests really rapidly. So what you combine, you should eat fruit on its own for definite. That's sound advice, because otherwise it digests so much quicker than everything else. Basically, a load of water comes through and it washes away your digestive enzymes that are designed to break down the meat or the carbohydrates, I should say. So for example, I have my vegetable juice at 12 and then my first meal at 1. If you're going to do the fruit thing, I'd have fruit at 12 and then an hour later you have your meal.
Okay. Now,
so fruit and drinking water, it should be an hour either side of any meal.
Fruit and drinking water.
Yeah, you shouldn't drink water when you're eating.
Interesting.
Because it basically dilutes all your digestive enzymes. So then nothing else breaks down properly.
Wow. How long until after you eat should you drink your water?
1 hour before and 1 hour after.
I've never heard of that before. That's very interesting.
That's an ancient science from the 1800s. I forget the scientific name. I think it begins with T, but it's food combining. So you should never combine starchy carbs and meat because they need the opposite environment to break down. So meat needs an acidic environment, and starchy carbs, potatoes, pasta, bread, cereal, rice, needs an alkaline environment to properly break down. So when you combine them, you create a neutral environment. Does anything break down in a neutral environment? No. What's the most popular meals that we eat around the world?
Steak and potatoes.
Bangers and mash, salami sandwich, pepperoni pizza, chicken and rice, pasta and chicken, pasta, tuna pasta, you name it. Every meal that's common is what we eat in the worst possible way for our digestion. And then, as I probably mentioned last time, I seem like I say it a million times a week. As Hippocrates said, all disease begins in your gut. And
Do you
then,
live by those principles? Because, by the way, that's exactly what natural hygiene is, and that's what he talks about in Fit for Life, is the idea of food combining. So, will you eat fish and then wait and then eat a starch? Like, do you live by those principles?
I prefer, so I'd eat quinoa over, for example, so here in Asia, the staple is white rice. So in an evening, I basically refuse to have any rice, so my digestion's clean. So if a dish ever has lentils or just chickpeas or kidney beans or quinoa, anything that could be technically, it's going to fill your belly, you're going to feel satisfied, then I'd never eat a starchy carb with that.
Okay.
So tonight, for example, we had fish and salad.
Yum.
Greek salad. When I'm breaking my fast at 1, I might have some rice with that meal there, but I don't have the mountains of rice that you might have seen. When working on cruise ships, like the buffets were amazing. So I basically avoided, unless I was having a cheat meal. I don't even like that term. I don't limit myself. I don't stress over food. But there's so much great choice. Like I didn't need any starchy carbs whatsoever in my meals. It was amazing. The choice was always there. Could have salad. I could have quinoa. I could have buckwheat's another great gluten-free grain. That's not really a grain. Quinoa is not really a grain. It's a seed. So these are the better choices. Amaranth's a great one. Millet's a great one. So there's some options that you can have, and then sweet potato, and then lentils, chickpeas, pulses, things like that. So
what kind of dressing do you put on your salad when you eat salad tonight? What dressing will you put on that?
Oh, I've got an amazing recipe. It's very simple. It's lemon garlic vinaigrette. So it's apple cider vinegar, lemon, garlic, sea salt, black pepper, and olive oil. And basically, when I make it, I slowly mix the olive oil in. So 1 cup of apple cider vinegar, 1 cup of olive oil, slowly mix it in. If you put it all in together, you'll be there stirring it for hours. Finally dice your garlic, 3 garlic cloves will do. Throw that in, pinch of salt, pinch of pepper, shake it up, put it into a fancy little, it's not here, but a fancy little salad dressing. That lasts for 2 or 3 months in the fridge. No preservatives. Well, the preservatives is the vinegar and the salt and the lemon.
Yeah.
It lasts for ages. Like in my video that I did for my website, I accidentally said it'd last for like 3 days, but it doesn't. It lasts for 2 or 3 months easy.
That's amazing.
It's beautiful. And then you're avoiding all the preservatives and the table salt and MSG and whatever else they're adding in there.
I love that. Man, I love asking you these questions. So let me ask you this. Do you ever eat, because you said gluten-free, do you ever eat breads, pastas, these big culprits of gluten? Are you eating these things?
Yeah. So when I healed my body, like I gave it up completely, and I gave up dairy when I healed my body from eczema. Then I don't know. I'm a big believer that life is meant to be lived. So probably my favorite food. Well, there's a few, but my favorite naughty food, let's say, is pizza. If
Mm.
I can get a good quality pizza, it blows my mind. So there's actually one restaurant in the entire of the Philippines that I found that does a decent pizza, and it's actually about half an hour drive from us. So maybe once a month we go as a treat, a date night, if you like, and we have pizza. Um, and then my wife does love cooking, and she loves cooking pasta. Maybe that's once a month, something like that. So yeah, I don't limit myself, but I do make jokes. Like when my when my wife makes the pasta, I'm like, oh, I'm guaranteed to be in the bathroom for a few, for a while today. So I'm still sensitive to it. So at the end of the day, I don't want a life where I have to go to the bathroom all the time. Like, it's not fun. Um, but happy wife, happy life, and to enjoy some pizza and a glass of wine and whatever, then I'm totally open to that. And I'm not, I don't panic or anything. I just do it. I enjoy it, and it is what it is. And then I move on with my life.
I freaking love that, especially homemade pasta, man. Like if
Yeah,
my wife is making homemade pasta, gluten free or not, like I'm down for that. That sounds freaking amazing. And I love good pizza too. Very
yeah.
different than the pizza that you're eating. I'm sure it's like normal, Sicilian pizza, stuff like that. But I'm a sucker for that. But I have been doing my best to not eat like the white breads at the table. And like because
Mm,
I've recognized even without like, I did the 23andMe health test recently with the genetics, and it said that I'm more prone to celiac disease than other people. And when I eat breads, I totally feel that. Like I feel full,
mm.
I feel like very sluggish, I feel very tired. So moving away from gluten is something that has been a focus of mine. And I haven't been very concerted with my efforts, but I've definitely been eating it a lot less, especially pasta, because that's like my number one. Like you said, naughty food, pasta is my naughty food. Like I could eat that all the time. So I've been doing my best to stay away from that. But listen, I love this conversation, and I really want to talk for a few minutes about the silent fast that you did for 7 days. So you mentioned that you did a 7 day totally silent fast. Like my questions will be like, tell me about that. Like guide me through it. Like why did you do it? You know, how was your experience doing it? What benefits did you feel throughout it? And now like tell me about the silent fast.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. So, and I look around us, and if I go to that amazing restaurant, most people are staring at the phone, not even speaking to the people at the table, not tasting the absolutely beautiful food. Sometimes there's a live band on, the missing that. And then I've traveled the world on working on cruise ships to amazing places, and people are looking at a device. I'm like, how many people have gone even 24 hours without their mobile phone, or the cell phone, I should say, to your audience? Um, Not many people, especially this new generation coming through, right? Then I was thinking, okay, what about 24 hours with no input whatsoever? So no humans talking to you, no reading, even a great book, just zero, just in your own mind. And then, of course, me being me, I wanted to push it a little bit more. So I got permission from my wife to be allowed to do 7 days just on my own. And she got a lot out of it as well. But basically, yeah, so 7 days, the rules were no human contact. So they deliver fruits and vegetables to the door twice a day. And then I juice that on my own. Um, and there was other little nuances. So I had to see the entire process through the eyes of the innocent. So like a young child. Um, so no judging. When I'm looking, no overthinking. So you're attempting to not think. So you're not looking back in anger. You're not, ruminating on things that you've done wrong, or worrying about the future. Like just being in the moment. Other things was Chi energy. So I've been doing Tai Chi, Qi Gong. Actually moves quicker when you move slower. So I made it a rule where I had to move slowly for a week. Everything I did super slow. And that, yeah, they were the basic premises. So no input whatsoever. I wasn't allowed to read a book. Wasn't allowed to look at I had no devices on me. No internet, obviously. No human contact. It was me, my own brain, my own mind, which is quite a scary place to be. And I did that for a week. And then I planned on doing a meditation, sunrise and sunset. And then in between was what it was. Did some Tai Chi, some yoga, things like that. And as I said earlier, I've always been like a 20, 21 minute guy for meditation. So 100% every day, 21 minutes. And then that's where I sort of could get to. I've done hours, I've done an hour and a half and things like that. But again, uncomfortable, brain going crazy. But on the first morning, I did 21 minutes. It was great. And I was like, oh no, what do I do for the rest of the day? So I decided, okay, tonight I'm going to do an hour. And it was really easy and I really enjoyed it. Physically, it was painful, but even by day 3, like I didn't have any physical pain when I was doing the meditations. And I was working somewhere between an hour to an hour and a half, morning and night. And then I was doing things like walking meditations in the day, which is you walk as slowly as you physically can, because we're constantly rushing, right? We're constantly going from A to B and not enjoying the journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing that. And then just one little physical thing. Well, actually on the meditation, I got into the vortex. Like it was amazing. It was almost like what I imagine LSD would be like. Like it was crazy, but only for a minute. I couldn't hold it. So I've still got a lot of work to do to master that. But at one point, this meditation music, but it was all rainforest noises came on. And then literally I was sat up tall and I was present. And through my third eye, if you like, I was in the rainforest and it was photo quality. Like, and then I was holding that and there was a body of water. And then I was like directing the ripples in the water with my mind. And it was like a movie. It was insane. So that was cool. And I know I can get into that place. And that's why I did it in the beginning as well. More about spiritual raising my consciousness. Again, spending, you find out who you really are at the end of the day if you spend time alone, right?
Yeah.
In your own thoughts. And yeah, I found some things about myself. Like I'm always seen as this happy, positive guy who doesn't worry about anything. But I was worrying about if I was doing things correctly. And because I had no reading material or anything, like I was constantly worrying. I'm like, why am I worrying about like how to meditate? I know how to meditate, but I'm worrying about it. Like, why can I not get back to that space? Like constantly fighting, and I'm thinking about thinking. It was so crazy. And the other thing I did was I did yoga every day. So I had a couple of observations on this. So it wasn't technically a fast. It was a juice cleanse, if you like. So I had a juice at 12 and a juice at 5. And then I was basically fasting for 19 hours a day. And it was only liquids. And then day 4, my lunch or my breaking my fast became a smoothie. So still liquefied, still very easily digestible. And then 5 p.m. I had my dinner, which was a juice again. And, on day 4, I'd not eaten for 3 days. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited for this smoothie. Like in my mind, I'm like, oh, so crazy. And my wife delivered, and bear in mind, I can't complain or anything, half an apple, half an orange, and like, I don't know, half a cucumber or something. It's like, why is she giving me half? Like, I'm starving. Like, where's the food? And it's
Was
amazing.
this on day 7 that she delivered those things?
No, that was day 4.
Wow.
And then day 5, same again. And I was like, oh, come on. But it was amazing. So I realized a couple of things. We mistake lightness for hunger. Because on day 6, I got delivered full apple, full orange, full banana, the works. And I made up double the amount of smoothie that I normally had. Bearing in mind, I was still alive, still did yoga every day, Tai Chi after lunch. Like, I was full of energy. I was fine. But I finally got what I wanted. And then I was sort of full after my first cup. But then I'm like, in my brain, like this program starts going off. And I'm like, no, I was thinking, oh, do I give this to my wife? I don't have a fridge here, so maybe it'll go off. I can't keep it for tomorrow. Then I was like, no, it's mine. It's mine. I'm going to have this. Yeah. So I drank the whole thing. And that was the only day I was stuffed. I could not move. And It was only like two cups of smoothie. Couldn't get into any yoga poses, nothing. I was just absolutely done for. And I was like, yeah, this is where fasting, it teaches you discipline, but it also, I'm sure you'll know as well, when you've only drank coffee in the morning or whatever, you're full of energy. That's when I do all of my creative work. As soon as I have lunch, everything just slows down.
Yes.
As soon as I had this smoothie, still liquid, not a huge amount, I was done. I couldn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow. And then also, like, when I was seeing everything through the eyes of a child, like, that's a program, right? Like, I want more. I want more. So it's gluttony. It's one of the 7 deadly sins. Like, and then I got more, and then I couldn't even move and do anything that I actually wanted to do. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this last time, but like, a child's brain is amazing. So up until the age of 2, they only produce delta brainwaves, which is deep sleep. So a baby is basically asleep with his eyes open. Then up until the age of 8, they only do theta in delta. Theta is hypnosis. It's deep meditation. So they form no critical thinking all the way up until the age of 8, which is sort of why, like, around that age is when you tell them that Santa's not real, right? So when a 5-year-old, like, we all look down on these kids, like, 5-year-olds crying because they got the different colored iPhone for Christmas to what they wanted.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, what this child. That's a program that's been put there by mainstream media, by its parents. Like, that's not us naturally. So when I was being gluttonous and wanting more, and then realistically I knew it wasn't going to be any good for me, that's sort of like all of this unlearning that we have to do. And like, none of these children up until the age of 8 ever form any critical thinking whatsoever. So anytime they're gluttonous and they want more food, and often parents or grandparents will give them food because they think they're being nice to the child, you're not being nice, and you're sort of feeding this program in its brain. When they're greedy, or what's it when you're envious? So let's say the brother got the white iPhone and they got the black one, and then the envy. This is all programming from modern life, including the education system, the mainstream media, and the parents, and what we're teaching these children. And that just really, it opened up my eyes when I was in my own brain for 7 days trying to think like a child, to that. And then the last thing, big breakthrough I had, was when I was doing yoga. I was like, what pose would a child do? Of course, it'd be the headstand. I was in like a bamboo shack, and my mosquito net had like these 4 ropes out. Now, the last time I did any inversion like that was when I was 20 years old and I dislocated my shoulder doing a cartwheel. I've suffered 5 shoulder dislocations from sport and being basically an idiot throughout my younger days. So 5 shoulder dislocations, 2 shoulder surgeries, not done any form of inversion since I was 20 years old and now 38. And I used the rope being in my way as an excuse. So I went into the inversion on my head, but I didn't extend my knees or my legs at all. Day 7, I took down my mosquito net. I'm like, I looked at it, not eating solid food for 7 days, approaching 40 years old, not done anything like this for 18 years, injuries, etc. And I thought, no, I'm going to do this. So on day 7, I performed my first headstand, and I held it for like 30 seconds.
Wow.
It was incredible. Yeah.
It's awesome.
So that was just sort of like, if you think you're too old, or it's too late, or you've got this issue and that issue, just in my own little world there, I proved that wrong.
Yeah. It sounds like you learned a lot of things during this 7 days, brother. I think that it blows my mind that you've got meditation and qigong, and then between all of that you have everything else. And it just makes me think, like, as an everyday person, not that you're not an everyday person, but you live, it's very clear that you live your life very differently than most people on earth. Like, I'd gather to say that aside from tribes and these different countries and lands, you live your life in a very unique, in a very holistic and natural way. And you mentioned envy. It's more so wonder than envy, but if maybe a combination of the two, I envy the life that you've created. But it also is so inspirational because it tells me that if you can create this life, I can create the life that I want to create, right? Which is different than yours, but many of those elements that you're enjoying and many of the elements that you're living would be so useful for me, so useful for the people listening. And even a couple things I take away from that is disconnecting from what we're connected to all the time. Even if you guys in the morning, or myself too, we just don't look at the phone for 30 minutes to an hour. If we don't brew the coffee immediately, I know I might be really pissing people off with that one, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. And I like coffee in the morning because then, like, it's a lot easier to use the bathroom in the morning after you drink a nice cup of coffee. You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah. No, I mean, that's always been my go-to is a black coffee.
Yeah.
So that's where start at the 12 hours.
Okay.
And then slowly, the best way to change your circadian rhythm is 15-minute increments. So technically, it's going to be almost 2 weeks before you get to 12 noon without a coffee. And I think you'd manage that, Again, it's just small changes rather than thinking, oh, no coffee, I start at the 12 hours and then go from there.
I love that. And Tom, I loved our conversation. I would love to promote you for a minute because I love everything that you're doing. I love your book. And for those who are watching, you'll see on my screen at the website in the description, which is Potentia Education, you can go grab a copy of Lazy Fucks Don't Live to 100. Now, the cool thing about it is it's a free copy. You just pay the shipping. And when you scroll down on this page, then you will find all of the different courses that Tom is up to based around nutrition, unstoppable fitness, the full body reset, sleep, stress-free living, which we talked a little bit about, and really overall creating happiness, right? And there's more things on this page as well. But no matter where you are in your life, guys, what you're looking to focus on right now, there's a course here for you. They're all very reasonable courses to go through in terms of expense. And Tom, as you can see from this conversation, guides you through everything. And he does it in even a more personal and one-on-one way. Even though you are going through a course, it feels like Tom is talking to you, just like in this conversation. So I love talking to you, brother. I love having you on the show every time. And I know that you'll be back on the show in the future as well to talk about one of the many other plethora of things that you're an expert in. But I've really appreciated our time together, brother. And I'm glad that you replied to me and you said, hey, I'm down for another conversation. So thank you, Tom.
No, I thank you for giving me the platform, and you're doing amazing. I've been watching a few of your podcasts. Very interesting stuff. So yeah, thank you for everything that you're doing, brother.
Thank you, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Guys, you heard it. Links are in the description to go check out Tom's courses and his book. It's under Potentia Education, which is the business of our dear friend Bogdan, who we also need to get Bogdan back on the show. He was, I believe, one of the first Be Better broadcast episodes, and Tom is an instructor of Potentia Education. So go check out the courses there. I hope you took something away from this conversation that will help you with your health and your fitness and your overall well-being. If you did, please share this show with just one other person who could use it as well. Thank you, as always, for being the best part of the Be Better team. And until we talk again next time, continue to be better.